So, are there any snakes in the grass? Hi. So, that's what I wanted to talk about. Something that came up on Twitter actually about New Age spiritual and being full of narcissists, and it just got me thinking. And I do feel like I've got a little bit of experience to kind of talk about this because I've been kind of delving in and out of different kind of spiritual stuff for probably, I don't know, most of my life really when I get the chance, because I think it's always something I've been quite drawn to. But what I have observed is, for a lot of people, it's more something they turn to when they've maybe had a breakdown or a breakup, or both quite often, or if they've been very ill. A lot of people seem to turn to alternative things if they've been very physically or mentally ill. So that goes on a lot. So what I've noticed is that, I suppose, these kind of workshops and retreats and whatever do seem to be full of vulnerable people. So there's a lot of vulnerable people. That's what I would say. I think that's a definite, actually, which does make sense. And therefore, I would say whenever there's a lot of vulnerable people, you are going to unfortunately get those who prey on vulnerable people, because sadly we live in a world where you are going to get those types of people in all walks of life, and the spiritual world is no different. I think some retreats and places where you can go and live, and communes or whatever, I think some of them try really hard to not have those kind of people, but it is very difficult because these people often are very they're master manipulators and very good at disguising themselves. So yeah, I think it definitely does go on. And the definition, the other word that seems to come up is narcissist. So the whole thing about being a narcissist to me is quite interesting, because it's a word which I don't think anyone had really heard about much until quite recently. So a few years ago, really, I'd say, is when everyone suddenly seemed to be accusing everyone of being a narcissist. I've even been accused of being a narcissist myself, and it's made me even, kind of, I've sat down and really thought about it and looked up what is a narcissist, and I think, well, yeah, actually, I suppose I've had moments of maybe being a narcissist, and actually the fact that I will kind of even contemplate that I might be probably shows that I'm not really, because most people who really are, I don't think would ever even, think about it. They just wouldn't care to even kind of, question themselves, because they just think that they're wonderful. So yeah, I think it seems like the definition of being a narcissist is the classic being in love with your own reflection, being very in love with yourself. So that's kind of basically what it comes down to. But I think the way people talk about it now, it's kind of seems to mean a bit more than that. It seems to mean more that you are some kind of psychopath or master manipulator, or someone who's quite evil. So yeah, I think there's just different levels to it. I think if everyone really took a good look at themselves in the mirror, they could probably all actually see little glimpses where they might have behaved in a slightly narcissistic way, because it's being self-centered, it's not considering others. So, I think there's definitely times in most people's lives where that goes on. I try very hard. Oh, lack of empathy is another one. I think I definitely don't relate to that, because I'm, if anything, a bit too empathic. I think that's one of my issues, is that I'm very empathic, and I find it hard to be around people for that reason. So yeah, I don't think that applies to me. But one of the things is, say, not considering other people. Well, I think when it comes to feelings and emotions, I really do. But with certain things like maybe making a cup of tea, like I'm quite guilty. I might make myself a cup of tea and someone will go, oh, I would have liked a cup of tea. And I'm like, oh shit. I just don't think sometimes, just little things. With the little things, I'd say I'm quite guilty of, yeah, not always thinking of others. But does that actually make me an out and out narcissist? I doubt it. I think I'm just a little bit in my own little world a lot of the time. Plus, I always think I'd rather make my own, and personally, I would rather make my own because no one ever does it right for me. So I always think, same applies. I probably wouldn't do it right for someone else anyway. So yeah, that's just a little thing. The other major thing with being a narcissist seems to be needing a lot of attention, like a lot. So I think in, say, certain professions, like probably musicians, actors, models, all of these type of professions, I think surely there must be a higher level of narcissism within, because if you're someone who craves a lot of attention, an excessive amount of attention, then surely you will be drawn to those kind of professions more. Now for me, I really don't like the idea of being famous, actually. It's nice. I think it's nice to be attractive and people find you attractive and to be admired, but I'd prefer it more from a distance. I wouldn't really want crowds of people following me down the street. That would absolutely drive me crazy. So yeah, I really don't think I've ever been drawn to that side of things. So yeah, where was I going with this? Basically, yeah, just to say that in the spiritual kind of new age world, there are definitely some bad people, if you want to call it that. That there are some people who are wanting to take advantage, maybe to get money, maybe to make them feel more powerful, to play with your emotions, maybe for sex. Definitely that goes on. I've seen that in a place I was at recently, say, especially the people who were there for longer. Actually, I think with a lot of these communes and retreats, the people who have been there for a long time, I think you need to be a little bit more careful of, so that the newer people usually have gone for the right reasons. Like I say, maybe they've had a breakdown or something, they're at a bit of a crisis in their life. But the people who get stuck in these places for years, I think some of them actually just don't really know what to do, what else to do, or they just it becomes their comfort zone, so they end up liking it. But I guess there could be an argument that some of those are the people who are slightly more, I don't know, enjoying the fact that they can take advantage of vulnerable people, because they might realise, oh, there's a lot of turnover of new women, say, coming in, and it does tend to be a bit more women than men, I would say, that go to these types of things. So just talking to other women I've met, there was one woman who'd been to Thailand, and she said she realised after being at this place for 6 months that it was just the guy running it was basically just sleeping with all the women, all the new women coming through. Really, he was just always, making a beeline for them, and like, oh, I'll help you, and you need to do this and that, and it was much more about using the women for sex than it actually was about helping them. So I do think you've got to be very aware of that.